Welcome, everybody. This is our first ever LinkedIn Live, so very exciting for us here. This is our Ask Me Anything, and it's our branding edition. My name's Eric Soderberg. I'm here with Mark Dowd, co-founders, co-managing partners here at Forefront Communications. For those that don't know us, we are a marketing and PR and branding agency focusing primarily in the financial markets and fintech. So why do we think we should be here talking about brands today? Well, we've been debating the years of experience we have in this area. I say 50, Mark says 40. We'll sort that later. But needless to say, we've been at this for quite some time, spent a lot of time as in-house CMOs, and we've been running this agency now for 7 years. And during our agency time, we've had the opportunity to now create close to 30 brands. And I'm using that word specifically, create. I think we probably have found ourselves using the word build. A lot of the work we do, and I think a lot of agencies do, is to build brands, strengthen brands. Today, we're really focused on the creation of a brand. Right. The name, the logo, the look and feel, the most important part, probably the key messages, etc. So, thanks for joining. This is live, so we do have, and we'll have some questions coming in live here. We did thank you very much for those who sent some ahead of time.
That's right.
And we'll get into those first, and then we'll take whatever comes up.
Yeah. Let's jump into the ones that we got ahead of time while we wait for some questions to come in now. So first one we get this one a lot. How long should a rebrand take? We've seen some people expect it to get done very quickly.
True.
We've seen some of these projects drag on for a long time. What do you think?
Yeah, it certainly varies. And I suppose that sounds like a cop-out, and we'll probably say this many times to questions, like it depends. Yeah. And it's true that, with limited budgets and limited times and critical corporate events coming up, it is possible, and we've done this in a few weeks, been able to pull together some brands. Yeah. I would say that businesses that are in it for the long haul and have some time on their hands, with us, it's typically about a 5-month project. Yeah. There are some variables in there. It's the size of the company sometimes is a factor. If the company has recently acquired another firm and there are stakeholders in 2 different businesses, that can add to it. The size of a website can actually have a huge impact. Yeah. There's many factors, but I'd say
how many products and services?
How many products and services do they have? Yeah. Does the company have a name?
Yeah.
Do they not have a name? Yeah. Do they want a new name? So there are a lot of things that go into it, but again, a typical project with us is usually like about a 5-month project.
Yeah. And so the another question that we got, which is always kind of the second question that we get as well. How much should it cost?
Yes. We're getting into the hard questions up front. Again, really does vary a lot. Has to do with those things I just mentioned in terms of time frame, the complexity of the work that needs to get done. Is this a startup with no clients, no name? Or is this a company that's been around for a very long time with an established brand that has just acquired another company of equal size? Again, number of products, size of a website, those things are all factors into how much a brand project is going to cost. So again, tons of variables.
Well, and at the high end, I mean, you lived through one at the high end when you were at Convergex, right? What did that cost you guys?
That is true. It's interesting. So having spent most of my time in-house, had the opportunity to work with many branding agencies over the years, other PR firms, etc. And I don't even think I was exposed to the highest priced brands out there, brand building firms out there. But look, I mean, $500,000, $600,000 is the type of money that many firms in this space do spend, some a lot more. But look, you can go online, you could find a service and probably come up with some brand. If all you're looking for is a logo and a general design template, and you could probably do that for $15,000. So huge range. you gotta understand what you're going to be getting in return, and you gotta, the level of work and the quality of work, the uniqueness of the work. You got to take all those things into consideration.
And that's the key part. What are you going to get, right? Does it start with messaging, and is it messaging that it's not just the CEO and the CRO that you're talking to, but all the frontline employees and clients and partners and industry third parties. Is that messaging then going to inform the visual brand that gets built? And so the visual brand's not just colors and look and feel that someone thinks looks cool, but has like a purpose, and design is a part of telling the story that you want to convey. Who's doing the writing? Is the key messaging coming through the writing? Is that writing SEO optimized? Like, that's all part. What about all the brand collateral and sales collateral and like all these things that flow on the back of it? Like, what's being delivered?
That is right. And I think we have a similar question, like what should you expect to get if you were to hire someone for a rebrand or creating a brand for you? And the list is incredibly long. And rightly or wrongly, I mean, certain agencies do certain pieces, some do all, some do just pieces of that. It's just very important to understand what you're going to get at the end of the day.
But for us, I mean, that is how we differentiate largely is that we do the full rebrand. Sometimes we talk about like a fractional rebrand, make sure you're not getting a fractional rebrand. That whole process that we deliver. So, a standard fintech in this space, maybe it's like a 10 to 15 page website they'll need, the messaging, all the collateral. It not to skirt the question here. It's 150, 200 grand, I think, is in a reasonable amount to pay.
Yep. Sure. Agreed.
Okay.
What else did we get?
Next question that we got was one that we also get often, so I'm glad it came in, which is about messaging. Because whenever we pitch, we say we're going to start with the messaging exercise, and sometimes people will say, we got it. We're good. Our messaging's in good shape. Let's just move into execution. What do we say to that?
So I would say, where did the messaging come from? How did you develop your messaging? And if the answer was, well, we talked about it, I think 9 times out of 10, that's usually comes from the top down, and probably your head of sales is involved, and maybe the head of product. But it's thoughts and opinions that haven't most often been lined up against what are the competitors saying.
That's right.
What are others in the industry? We talk to analyst firms all the time. Like, what's your opinion of this firm? Do you know what they do? How are they differentiating themselves? If they haven't gone through that sort of 360 review, chances are it's probably not great, unfortunately. So, but look, if they've done thoughtful processes in the past, and it passed an early sort of sniff test, and we talked to some people there, and they all have similar responses to questions like, what does your firm do, and who you are, and how do you differentiate, and that all comes back sounding the same, then they very well could be in good shape. We can move on. But I would also offer that saying you have it, we also often say, can you send that to us? And it's oftentimes not written down, which is important because you want to have these messages, rely on them, refer to them to help influence, as you were saying earlier, every single step of the process.
Well, not only that, but if it's not written down, how can you get a consistency of message across not only all your customer touch points, your website, your client communications, your PR communications, your social, but just what the frontline employees are saying to the market. Right? Like we get called in often, a company does their A round and they're looking to scale. Maybe the early days it was 2-3 people who were talking to clients. Yeah. And it's easy enough to have a similar story when you've got that number, but now they're ready to start scaling globally. How do you make sure that the salesperson in New York is saying the same thing as a salesperson on the West Coast, is saying the same as a salesperson in London and Hong Kong, etc. Like having this messaging that informs talking points and the questions and objections that you're likely to get and how to overcome them, that is just so crucial.
Yeah.
So crucial.
That's right. Agreed.
Want to take our first question from the live?
We got a live one. Okay.
So,
sure.
Someone we know here, Alex Hamer, former Forefronter. What is the most challenging part of doing a brand project, and what's the most rewarding part?
I would say this is maybe a bit of a biased opinion. I think the hardest part of it is at the beginning. Mm-hmm. It is trying to develop the key messages, and you're going to hear us say this 1,000 times, I'm sure, during this broadcast. But it's something we just totally believe in. But really trying to distill what a firm does into some plain language that is also differentiating can be very hard. There are so many trade order management systems in this space. There are so many surveillance tools in this space. Has anybody heard of a crypto exchange or a tokenization platform? I mean, there's so many, and you just have to figure out how you're going to compete in what is a very crowded space. So that's hard.
And then getting the buy-in from the client that this is it. This is the source code. This is not changing.
That's true.
These are going to be the words that we're going to see on our website, in our sales collateral. True. Like, we need to all be bought in on this.
And it made me think that I would be to not credit our design team, who, again, we're like most of our brands, most of the companies we work with are targeting very similar audiences. Yeah. And they all are, the people they're targeting are pretty similar. And the same colors are going to resonate to these same people. So we're finding like creative ways to represent the brand so that brands have a distinct look and feel. That's tough work. I think the last part of the question about what's the most rewarding part, I think the day that these websites go live, now we usually put them live on a Friday late, and we let them check them out over the weekend to make sure everything's bulletproof. And then when the communications, sometimes a press release, when all that stuff starts to go out the next day and we see the social posts go up, and that's what I think the clients obviously have paid for and have been waiting for, and that's just awesome.
Yeah. My favorite, I agree, it's rewarding when it goes live. I find it most rewarding when a company is willing to be bold.
That's true.
And truly differentiating. There's one we talk about a lot. They're a VC in the space. They've invested in Talos, one of our clients, a couple of others, called Initialized. We've long been fans of their brand. They just showed me the other day. They rebranded.
They did a rebrand, held on to some of the incredibly, not aggressive isn't the right term, but what do we have our fourth mood board? We call it disruptor. Very disruptor brand look and feel. They just stand out so much in the space they're in. And when we have clients say, look, I wanna be disruptor. That's what I want to be. That's exciting. And we've pushed the limits to the point where we've had to dial things back. But yeah, we love that. The openness there is great.
Yeah. Oh, and here's Rich. Rich Franco, the source code idea. Yes, Rich, we did steal that one from you. That's that was a great way of talking about it, and I use it often.
Yeah, that's right. Our key message is as source code. Yeah, we took that from Rich Franco. Thanks for that.
So here's one from Melinda Joseph at Sterling. What do you recommend to get buy-in across an organization internally for branding activities upon completing a rebrand?
So this the question. Let's see, to buy in across the organization for branding activities upon completion. So if the question is how do you get people bought in post rebrand, I would say certainly tactics to address that. Obviously, during the process, I think you want to have representatives from the right areas of the organization, because buy-in 100% is critical. So if that means getting a representative from a global region, getting somebody from the front lines, getting some newer employees involved potentially, as well as the senior folks, new people overall, people that have been with the organization a long time. I think that's important. I think as part of the process, we had a client recently. I don't think we want to say who, but they wanted to get like almost everybody involved. And we would have Zoom calls with 50, 60 people on it. And everybody that wanted to had the opportunity to chime in.
Yeah.
So no surprise when that brand was ready to roll out, what people saw in the communications from the CEO, what they saw in the press release, it all made sense. They were all bought in. They were all fired up. They felt part of it. And they, as a result, I mean, kind of owned it as well. So
yeah,
it's
it
hugely
can,
important.
It can be a fine line. Obviously, that one took a little bit longer than others. But I'll tell you what, everyone feels invested in where they're at now. I think in terms of like brand consistency and because that's often one of the hardest parts is how do you get this to stick. That one's working really well. The company's like on a real upward trajectory.
Sure.
So it's funny. I would say before that one, my stock answer was always like, let's kind of keep this group pretty narrow. But actually that experience sort of has me thinking sometimes that like with the right guidance, having a larger group involved, it really can work.
Oh, for sure. That's not that you're correct. We don't recommend get everybody in your organization on the Zoom call. We were actually surprised when it happened. And then it kept happening during the project. But I think about the rollout, think about what you're going to need from employees to ensure that people are excited about it, are willing, ready, and able to adopt it and reinforce it, and you should be in good shape.
Yeah, and then I think the second part of this is once the brand has been developed, how do you get it to take hold on the market? And that's investment, right? It does require investment, and I think, by and large, the companies that we work with are all very data driven. So some of the data points that we've pointed to in the past from the CMO survey that we did last year have been helpful. There's some publicly traded fintechs in the space where we've been able to pull some data points from their public filings that have been helpful. And I think those data points and showing what others are spending and how they're investing in getting the brands to take hold have all been helpful data points for some of our clients who, naturally, or not necessarily our clients per se, but just people who naturally feel like, do I really need to do all this? Do I really need to spend all this? I've got a direct sales staff.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Let's see, what else? We got some questions the other day that we can come back to as well. Here's one from Tom Lant. He sent this in via social the other day. With clients, how do you divide brand building steps, and what percentage of time do you attribute to each?
Yeah, so I'm glad we got this one ahead of time because I'm not sure I could have given an answer on the fly to that one. I think this question might, and the challenge here might be the distinction between a brand build or a brand strengthen and brand creation. I think this is more of a brand building enhancement sort of question in terms of what programs might do the most to strengthen a brand. Don't know the exact ratios off the top of my head. Something we preach here is that there is no silver bullet program for anything that you're trying to achieve. Even if you say, I just want leads, I don't believe there is a single program to achieve that. If I just want brand awareness, I do not believe that there is a single program to do that. So how much you spend in each area, that can vary.
Yeah.
I would say if you're in a dominant market position and the sales pipeline is totally full, but people don't know exactly what it is you do, corporate communications and PR can be ways to address that. If you told me everybody knows who you are, but we just can't get any leads, I think it's more of a direct marketing, possibly an advertising sort of campaign, LinkedIn sponsorship. So it can depend. So a little bit hard to answer that question unless we know exactly what the business is trying to address at that time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about at the beginning of any relationship. What is your strategic goal? We've had something Broadway, right? When they brought us in to do that project, it was right after their deal with Ion. They were really looking to create the Broadway 2.0.
That's right.
And it was about recruiting. They truly felt like what separated them from the pack was the quality of their employees. That was why clients turned to them. The toughest challenges, turned to Broadway, and so they needed to continue to have this pipeline of the best technologists. So a huge part of that exercise was about how do we appeal to potential employees.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I'll digress to some of my early 2000 fintech experience. A company called McGregor. Anybody that's on this LinkedIn Live has been in the space for a while probably remember who they were. But look, we had massive shifts in the programs that we were the levers we were pulling on. We were in unbelievable competition with firms like Charles River Development and Escastle, and it was a land grab. We need to get clients as soon as we possibly can. As people who know this space know that once you buy a trade order management system, you're not getting rid of it anytime soon. So every single program focused on lead gen. We had a large client base. Clients, you need to keep them happy too. We shifted our programs entirely to client satisfaction. Sure. And then client events, way more communications. So you can see major shifts at companies even over the course of a few years in terms of what's going to be the most important sort of programs.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting off the topic of brand creating a little bit, but nonetheless very important stuff.
That's right. So here's one from Rich. What are the cautionary tales we should be aware of? How can a brand project go wrong, go off the rails?
One thing comes to my mind immediately is allowing a single individual at a client to kind of call all the shots. That is challenging. And look, we work with many CEO founders. Fortunately, not many are it's my way or the highway here, but that's definitely something that can take things off the rails. I would say too that, and this goes to finding the right agency. Now, of course, and I think no matter what type of firm you are, I think you should gravitate towards agencies that know your industry pretty well. Yeah. I know, and we hear this from prospects we talk to often, that they have engaged other agencies, and things go off the rail when the agency comes back to present concepts and ideas, and they just don't resonate. They're using the wrong terms or terms that you would never use in the capital markets. You have a great example.
I know you love this story.
This was with at the time Refinitiv.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, Instinet.
It was with Instinet. Yeah, no. When I was with Instinet, we brought in a branding agency. They were more of a generalist branding agency. The thinking was, hey, they'll bring some fresh thinking, some creative ideas, and the idea was we can take care of the nitty gritty product level stuff. Let's just get some big ideas in here. So they talked to a whole slew of people. I think it was they did a survey. I think it was. Yeah. And they came back, the big idea that they revealed in front of the CEO, the heads of all the regions, it was a big meeting, was the new tagline, trade ahead, which mouths, jaws dropped, which was just oh my God, we obviously can't say this. The compliance person, I think, his head exploded. And that's the risk you run.
Yeah, and for anybody that's on this live event here that doesn't quite get that is what people would fear of brokers, right?
Yeah.
That they would see your client order and they would trade ahead of you to take advantage of you. It could have been the worst suggested tagline of all time. So
Yeah.
that is where, like, people come to us and say, I started this brand project, we never got it over the line. It's usually because they find out early enough on in the project that the people just don't understand it well enough. And also when it comes time to writing the website, like, and this is another thing, and we don't want to go too off the rails on this alone, but you can go to an agency. I like to get a rebrand, and you could get a name, you could get a new logo, you could get some key messages, and you could get a great template for a website, and all of that could look stunning and be completely on the mark. But then what? Like, who is going to take that website template, turn it into your sales material templates, write your sales material, write all the website pages with the appropriate tone of voice? I mean, there's just a mountain of work. And I think a lot of times people in-house will underestimate the amount of stuff that has to happen once you get those sort of, initial pieces.
That's
completed.
right. That's right. The only thing I would add to this, just to go back to Rich's question about where can things go wrong. I know we talk about the messaging a lot, but it's not fully appreciating how vital it is to get that set and locked down, and how much of the rest of the process hinges on that. We haven't had many that have kind of been challenging engagements, but the ones that do tend to take longer than they should are the ones where we've thought we're in agreement on the messaging. We move into design phase.
That's right.
We develop design that supports the messaging, and then there's like a tweak to that messaging, and then a lot of the creative work doesn't really work anymore, and then you have to back up, and it throws off timelines. So that if there's one big takeaway from me, it's the importance of nailing that messaging and getting that set.
Yep.
So here's one from Joe De Silva about crypto. Do you think crypto firms should adjust their brand messaging given the current crypto winter and the FTX collapse? If so, how?
Yeah, so we are, I think, in the midst of three.
Yeah, we're seeing this now.
Three digital asset / crypto, brand creation things. So the question was, how do they adjust their brand? So I think the wild west of crypto is sort of, people are tired of that now. I think people get the message that there's a exciting new world of the capital markets out there, but the number of failures and things and the distrust that so many people have from the media to clients, investors, etc., is huge.
Yeah.
Our recommendation is to probably just tone it down a little bit, be a little more realistic, be a little more practical. If you're going to say you're changing the world and no one in the world will be poor again because of your blockchain technology, and those sort of promises, I think it's a little overkill. And no individual firm is going to be able to do that. So tone it down, get very specific about what you are trying to address, what are the pains those very specific things you're trying to solve for, and make sure you have like legit use cases for that.
Yeah, and it does sort of feel like industry-wide there's been a shift where people are trying to get more serious and convince the market that, like, we're, for lack of a better term, we're the adults in the room.
We're the institutional offering.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think, look, there's a lot of the business models that have kind of been prominent in crypto are rightfully being called into question. The sort of exchange that's actually, matching and custody and proprietary trading and a litany of other things.
Sure.
Like that model is, I think, very much under pressure right now. So you're seeing a lot of specialized components that are unbundled, coming to market. So you're definitely seeing a lot of firms that are playing up their role in the sort of unbundled part of the process, and why that's so important.
And I think to our audience, you've heard it here first. This is the next great unbundling we're going to be talking about. What to do with the crypto exchanges and how that typically works. What else? Do we have any other?
Yeah. So here's one from Alex. What are the biggest differences you see between startups and smaller firms and larger firms and their goals and their aspirations when it comes to their brand?
So I mean, I think it's in many cases it's a lot simpler for the smaller firms, right? They have a product. They may or may not have competition. They probably think they don't. Oftentimes surprised once they come out of the gate that there is more than they expected. I think it's just it's simpler for them. I think we've done work with much larger, some of the bigger sort of fintech financial services / players. It's just more nuanced and it's just harder. It's more complicated. They've got an enormous suite of products where they've got competitors all over the place and they're trying to come up with something at the top of the house that's going to sound differentiated than the other enormous fintech with all those brands they've accumulated over the years. So it's just harder. I mean, the bigger the firms, it becomes harder. It becomes more nuanced. The smaller firms, it's just I find it's a little bit easier.
Yes, but it's a lot of these. How many people have we worked with who are trying to take on, in some capacity, Bloomberg or Refinitiv
the next
or
Bloomberg,
Broadridge or Ion or any one of these very established firms, convincing a hedge fund who's very concerned about risk, very concerned that their key partners are going to be around for the long haul. That's not easy. So a brand new firm coming up with messaging and a brand look and feel that will convey to the market that, yes, we're substantial, even if we're pretty new. There's an art in that as well.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
We can go maybe back to a couple of the ones that we got over the last week or two as well, because I think these are some interesting ones. How do I know? This is one that we get often as well. How do I know if my current brand is working? That's one that we get often, right?
Yeah. No exact science. Mm-hmm. We were joking before, do you find yourself as a salesperson at that organization having to explain yourself over and over and over again before someone has any idea what you do?
Yeah.
When you walk into that sales meeting, or that Zoom call, do people already have a pretty good idea who you are and how you're different and better, or is like a clean slate every time?
That's right.
Because if you're walking into a call and people say, "Hey, great, I heard you guys are doing this differently," or "I understand you guys, the big difference with you guys is this. Can you tell me more about that?" Those would be some signals that you're doing something correct. If across your organization, no one's telling the same story, if the media can't get your story straight, if the clients and prospects have really no idea what you're doing and they're confused about where you're trying to go as a firm, these are all, admittedly, perhaps soft indications that you need to address your brand.
Yeah, and on the design side, are you trying to position yourself as a cutting edge technology firm? 100%. If you are, do you have a bunch of images of the buildings or the New York City skyline? Does it look? Is
wavy lines? We could go with some wavy lines.
Yeah,
wavy lines.
Is it? Yeah, candlesticks.
Candlesticks and wavy lines.
Is it mobile responsive? Does it look like a modern technology company's website? Does it feel like that?
I know that when I see a client, a firm in this space particularly has a new website, I immediately flip to LinkedIn and I say, does that look like the brand they just rolled out?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I'm like, used the term before, they just got themselves a fractional rebrand. It's not been thought through. It's not thorough. And it doesn't mean every single thing you have is going to be updated with your new brand day one across the board. But look, the publicly facing visible things like your social channels and stuff, those should be aligned out of the gate.
That's right. And look, admittedly, we're probably more attuned to this than most, given what we do. But I will say that if you're a client and or a prospect, I should say, and you see a website that looks a certain way and a pitch deck that looks another and a social media card that looks another, that's obviously signaling to you that this company has not put a ton of care into their brand, is not super coordinated internally, and it probably makes you question at the back of your mind, what other business processes are they cutting corners on? Where else are they playing fast and loose?
Yes.
Is it just the marketing, or is it on their technology stack as well?
And I don't think, and we obviously, as you pointed out, we look at these things critically. I don't think most people do. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. So you go to a company, you've gotten the cold call. Mm-hmm. They say, "Oh, we're all about such and such." They go to your website.
Yeah.
They don't see any evidence of that. They go to your LinkedIn About Us page. That sounds totally different than your website. That is not how you establish credibility. They are not going to have confidence in anything your sales rep tells them.
That's right.
If it's just all over the place. So, and the things I just mentioned aren't. Anybody could fix that in about 20 minutes. At least get them consistent is huge.
And that's assuming that the sales rep is the one who's able to have the conversation, right? How often do we hear about the due diligence process now, especially on a vendor who's touching the trading stack or portfolio management stack?
Yep.
There are layers of risk managers and compliance people and whomever who, they don't have maybe a ton of say in the actual purchasing decision, but they could definitely raise that red flag.
100%.
And their due diligence is mostly website, right?
Yep.
Look through the sales collateral, look at the website. There's just so many reasons why not being coordinated on that is a risk. And also, what does it signal? The flip side, what does it signal if someone does see a great new brand rollout, highly coordinated? It says this company is investing. They are here for the long haul.
I can believe what they say.
Yeah,
because now I see it repeated 3 times, 4, 5, 10 times. Exactly. All right, we're beating a dead horse on that one.
So we're at 40 minutes here.
40 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
What do we got? Any others that came in ahead that we should address?
This is one. We'll take one more that came in. This is one that we also get a lot, and it is this: how do I know the rebrand process is going to work? Right. We come with a big number. How do I know it's going to work?
You have no guarantee. Not. With us, I'd tell you had a nice guarantee. But no, that's right. Like, and a lot of the firms certainly that we work with, Series A level, some well-funded startups and things like that, it's a big number. They didn't plan for that. Their cousin told them that he could do a website for them for $15,000. So that's their benchmark, and they think that should do it. So it's a big number to people. And we just say, like, you need to do your homework. Yeah. If you're with the agency you want to choose, you should absolutely check references. You should absolutely say, can you show me work you've done in my industry?
Right.
And then they say, oh yeah, we did this brand here and did that brand there, and we did these guys. You should ask a follow-on. What exactly did you do? Yeah. Did you just do the logo? Did you do the entire website? What was your role in the LinkedIn thing? Like, ask those detailed questions, because it's very easy to say, hey, yeah, we did that brand. Or one we hear all the time is, oh yeah, we build brands. Mm-hmm. They never created one, but they use that term loosely to mean they've worked on them. So you can be a PR agency and you can talk about building brands. And I think that's a legit claim, but that's not, can you help me create a brand? That is a different sort of thing. So look at past work, check references, and ask a lot of tough questions, and also really make sure you know what you're going to get at the end. Is it Is it a logo, a color palette, and some key messages? Or is it a logo, color palette, key messages, every word of content for your website, communications to help support the launch, on and on and on.
And what comes next, right? Like
Yeah.
it's great to create a brand that you know it resonates with the market, differentiates, all the things we've talked about. But then what? Like how can this potential partner help you can keep it at the level it's at? How can they help you execute on your strategy?
Yep.
Where do we go from here?
For sure. Excellent. Well, that's 40 minutes. That's probably as much as anybody could take on
I think so.
Fintech branding talk. Thank you so many of you for hanging in for most of this.
Hope they did.
Look, we are, go onto our website, get our contact info. Happy to have any sort of conversations on this topic or others as it relates to marketing, PR, and comms, particularly in this space that we're in. A lot of resources on our site as well. Some CMO survey results that are pretty interesting to know what others in the space are doing. Also some tips and tricks around how to select agencies and build brands and all that sort of good stuff.
Importance of messaging. Some of our case studies, if you want to get a sense of some of the brands we've built, Talos and Mace Street and Hidden Road.
That's right.
A lot of firms in the space.
For sure. And certainly we'd love to do another one of these, I think. How do you think this went?
I don't know. I think it went
We're
well.
going to find out. So great. Yeah. Any topics for other future LinkedIn Lives? We'd be happy to take those under consideration. And thanks again. We really appreciate it.